Hi, everyone, and welcome to part 3 of our STEM series. And in this one, we'll be talking about meeting the computer science standards with Code.org. My name is Sean Abley. I'm an instructional technology coach for the Gilbert Public Schools. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions, please reach out at any time. My Twitter handle and a link to my website that is full of tons of resources for educational technology as well as computer science. Code.org is a nonprofit organization that really wants to make computer science available to everyone in the K-12. What it does is it either has a full curriculum that students can participate in, or it also has a number of hour of code activities that are shorter activities that you can do with your classes. In this session, our objective is to create a Code.org account, explore Code.org like it looks for a student, to create your own class section, and then assign a course to the section that you created. And I want to start with the why and why we would want to teach computer science. And these statistics came directly from Code.org. The most interesting to me is the nationwide standard, or the nationwide computing jobs that are available. So if you look on the right, under the United States, we have over 633,000 jobs available for computing. Of that, we've only had 71,000 computer science graduates. That leaves over 500,000 jobs that nobody's qualified to fill in the United States. In Arizona alone, we have over 15,000 with only 1,000 computer science graduates. So you can see the demand for computer science graduates is huge compared to the number of jobs that are available. And I'm going to take you right to this link from Code.org that shows you some more statistics. So you can see that of people that were surveyed, 90% of parents want their child to study computer science, where only 45% of high schools across the nation actually teach it. This is the statistic that really got my attention. What subjects do students like? A lot. And over 50% of students report that they like the computer science and engineering. So it's high on students' interest list with art and performing arts. So if we can figure out ways of incorporating computer science into some of the other disciplines, imagine how our students might actually like more of the things that are being taught to them. And if I scroll down a little bit, I really like this chart that Code.org has. So in here, these statistics are actually updated from my slide. They're reporting that there are over 600,000 computing jobs available nationwide, with only 71,000 people to fill them. So again, we're almost at 600,000 open jobs with nobody to fill those jobs because we just don't have the computer science graduates. And then it gives us the links. If you click on the specific state, it gives you information for that state. So again, it looks like I need to update my slide. These were updated recently. 17,000 jobs in Arizona and only 1,000 computer science graduates. That's a huge gap. Then if you look at our surrounding areas, California, where some of our students may end up after graduation, 97,000 jobs that are open with only 7,000 students to fill them. 90,000 jobs right next door to Arizona. New Mexico has much less with only 2,000, but still you can see those large gaps. And this gives statistics for every one of the states. So you can see that there's a huge gap in the number of people that are qualified to do computer science jobs to the number of open jobs that are available. And a lot of that is because students aren't even aware of the fact that they might actually like it because they haven't been introduced to it at a young age. So teaching computer science, especially at the elementary level, encourages them and identifies their enjoyment of the subject so that they want to take those things in high school and beyond. Arizona adopted computer science standards in October of 2018, And here is a link to those standards should you want to see the full document. And we also have educational technology standards that were originally adopted in 2009. They're currently in the process of being updated with a hopeful completion date of January of 2021. Again, this is a link to the current standards that are available from 2009. And then as soon as those are updated, they'll be available on the Department of Ed website as well. Under the computer science standards, there are 5 sub-concepts. The first being computing systems, second, networking and the internet, third, data analysis, the fourth one is algorithms and programming, and the fifth is impacts of computing. And surprisingly, many of these are already covered in your everyday use of technology in the classroom. I've also done a webinar previously on some additional resources that are available, and you can actually see those on my website that was listed on that first slide, and it'll show again at the end. And don't worry, these slides are going to be available to you afterwards, so you'll have access to all of the links within it. So when could we actually use Code.org? And we're going to get into Code.org, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you here in a minute. But here's some ideas of when it could actually be used during your classes. It's a great option for intervention time. So if you're working with a small group of students, assign another group time to work on their Code.org activities. They have tons of enrichment activities that will solidify some of the things that they're learning in their core curriculum. You could utilize computer science as a unit in your actual science curriculum. During designated computer time, if your schools have that, that's a great time to do coding and Code.org. Not all schools at the elementary level have a computer special, but it would be a great way to incorporate coding into the classes if you do actually have that special. My favorite is those students, you all have them, that student that says, I'm done with this assignment, now what can I do? And if you've set up Code.org for your classroom, that would be a great opportunity for those students that are done with everything else and you want them to be doing something educational, but maybe you didn't have something planned for them. Send them off to, why don't you go work on coding today then? On those excessive heat days when we're all stuck in the building because we can't go outside, and you, again, want the kids to have a fun activity to do, but you also need your recess time. Put them on the Code.org so that they can do some of these fun activities, and you still have the opportunity to maybe answer emails or some of those things. And then lastly, station activities. So again, when you're doing small groups or stations, assign Code.org as one of those. So I'm going to demonstrate what Code.org is. It's an excellent way to meet all of the computer science standards if you go through an entire course with your kids, and it requires absolutely nothing on your part. The lessons are already there. They give step-by-step instructions. They provide videos, and I've done Code.org from kindergarten through high school, and they're all able to be successful with very little input from the teacher. So I'm going to take you to Code.org so you can see what one of these would look like. And you sign in with Google. And it brings me right to mine. And I'm just going to go to the 3rd grade course. So when you get to, this is what it looks like from the teacher end. You'll be able to see it from a student perspective in just a minute. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that on your own. But these ones are unplugged activities. As the teacher, you can make them so that the kids can see them, or you can hide them. Unplugged activities are usually whole group activities that you would do with your students as a whole group together. These require no device at all. But I'm going to go to lesson 4, which is programming with Angry Birds. And when the kids are brought to that, they start at number 1, and it looks just like this. This is an exact view that the students see. So it gives a video, and I'll show you this video.
Today, we're going to learn to program using a drag-and-drop language called Block. Blockly uses colorful instructions called blocks to build programs that you can use to solve puzzles. Under the hood, you're still creating code. Each puzzle you'll solve with the code is split into 4 main parts. On the left is the play area, where your program will run. In the center, you will see the toolbox area that holds all the blocks that you will need for each puzzle. To the right is your workspace, where you will drag blocks to build your program. Finally, above the workspace, you will see the specific instructions for each puzzle. Don't worry if you accidentally drag out a block that you don't need. If you have an extra block, simply drag it back into the toolbox to put it away. After you hit run, you can always hit the reset button to get your character back to the start so you can try again.
So it gives a little intro to the students and tells them how to work the Code.org dashboard. They click continue and it takes them to their first lesson. And at the top, it gives them the instructions. They have to click OK in order to move on. But what's interesting about this is even on your low-level readers, if you have students that struggle with reading in the kinder level, again, I've done this with our kinder kids, they can click on this and it'll read it to them. So for this one, we have to put all the blocks together and then click run to watch it go. And I've actually done this before. See that they're all green. That means that I've actually done them probably in one of my previous demonstrations. So I'm going to stick these back here. And it looks just like this when they get it. So they move forward and they can push run and see if it and I didn't get it right, so it tells me that up here again with the play button. So if I don't know how to read that, then that'll play for me, and then I try it again. A reset and and then I go on to the next one. So the kids work through these. They get progressively harder as this moves on, but it always gives them that video for each lesson and then the instructions that go along with it. As a teacher, you can look back at here and see which ones they didn't finish. So if a student is struggling in these but didn't finish this one, let them know to go back and do number 8 and then work their way through. The other thing, when you're showing your students how to use Code.org, is identify this little button here that says more. What I like about this is this will allow them to go back into other things so they can see the things that they missed. Or you can identify that this diamond at the top is going to have that video again. Why don't you go back and watch a video and try it again? Or you can go back to a previous one. So your students can navigate throughout each lesson using those little buttons at the top. So that makes it so it's very easy for students to be in charge of their own learning and need little help from you. So the first thing we want to do is create a Code.org account. So what I'm going to have you do is go into Code.org. I'm actually going to sign myself out. And up here at the top, you'll click Sign In. Now, if you've not created an account yet, you'll want to choose Create an Account. And from here, you can continue right with Google if you have Google, or you can sign up. So I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to the next slide. So again, if you needed to reference this later, you go to Code.org and click Sign In. From there, you'll click Create an Account. And then I choose Continue with Google because I do have a Google account. There's other ways to do that. You can create your own if you don't have Google accounts, and then get signed in. The next thing we want to do is be able to explore Code.org as a student. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to send you the link to go to studio.code.org/join. So you'll navigate to studio.code.org codeorg/join, and it'll ask you to type in a code. So it'll ask you to type in a code. And I want you to type in the code that corresponds to the level, the grade level that you teach. So for example, if you're going to the 3rd grade, you would just type in RGPSKW, and then you'll be able to navigate throughout that course. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to just take a look at that and see some of the examples as a student would see them, and then we'll come back. So I hope that you were able to see how easy it would actually be for a student to navigate those courses. If you wanted, you can come back to this slide and choose another course and navigate a different course to be able to just check them out and see how those work. But hopefully it gave you a little bit of an understanding of what those courses would look like for the students. And hopefully you could see that, that really even yourself could easily navigate through those lessons without much input from somebody else. You can navigate back and forth between the videos, you can click between different lessons and try a lot of those things on your own. So let's go in and create a class section for your own class. Now I suggest creating one that's, I call a sandbox, so that you can try those things on your own. So to create a section and assign a course, I'm just going to go to code.org. These are the specific instructions if you needed something to refer to after, but you can create a section using 3 different methods. I'm going to go back and sign back in because I signed myself out. And when you scroll down, it says create a section. And there are a number of ways to be able to do that. There's actually 4 different ways to create a section. If you're using Google Classroom, this is going to be your absolute easiest way to do that because it'll automatically sync all of the students from your Google Classroom into code.org. If you're using code.org with young students, you can see this says ages 4 to 8. I do this for K1-2. I use the picture logins just because it's easier for them. Personal logins, if you don't have school logins, so if you don't have a Google Classroom, this might be the easiest way to do it for you. But I'm going to show you just the different ones. So I'm going to go with picture logins. And I like to name mine Sandbox so that I can, this is not one that would actually be associated with a real class, but this gives me something that I can navigate and practice things on my own. And I'm going to choose this one for Kinder. And from here, you have to choose which course you want to assign to your students. My recommendation is to do the Pre-Reader Express for Kinder, and then A would be 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th, 5th, 6th. And then you get into the discoveries for 7, 8, and CS principles for high school. So that's what I recommend. I'll show you what code.org's recommendations are in a little bit, but you can see that they have a bunch of different ones. You can also assign some hour of code activities from here too. But since I chose Kinder, I'm just going to go to the Pre-Reader Express. And I leave these at the default. Click Save. So now I have my class. And because I did not do this through Google Classroom, I have to either add the students or the students would add themselves using that login code just like you guys did when you navigated to my classes. Because they're Kinder, I don't feel that they would be ready to do this on their own. So I prefer to add them myself. And I'm just going to add them. When you're doing this, make sure that you do enter the age, because if you don't enter their age, it does ask them. Not sure why, but it does. It does not, it will not ask them their gender. You can put this in here if you want, or you can keep that blank, but age it will ask them for. And then you just click add. And you do that for all of your students. And then you come down here to print login cards. And it'll provide a login card for each of your students. Now, when this student goes to this link, which I would put on a Google Classroom or something like that, when they go to this link, it'll have all the students in your class listed. So they would choose their name, and then they have to choose which animal showed up on their card. Hers was the puppy, so she would click it and then click sign in. And then she's automatically brought into her lesson. So if she's done some, the next time she logs in, they'll all be green and she can start at the next blank one. So that's how you would create a class using the picture logins. I'm going to go back to code.org. I think it signs me out when I click it as a student. So I'm going to sign back in. I'll sign her out. Sign me in. So this time I'm going to create a section using Google Classroom. And what it does is it loads the Google Classrooms that you have available. And I'm going to pick this one. Actually, yeah. Let me find one that I actually have people in. I think this one I have actual students in, and I would choose that section. I'm going to go with 7th grade. I'm just going to keep those all the same for right now. And hit save. So this time, it put it in. So this time, this is the class that I just created. And now it says it's a Google Classroom. It also has 11 students automatically logged into it because it just pulled those students from my Google Classroom. So when I click on it, they're automatically logged in with the information that came from my Google Classroom. Now with this one, when the students go in the first time, it will ask them their age because that does not automatically populate. So that's how we create a class in Code.org. The next thing we want to be able to do is assign a course to a section. And initially, it automatically assigns the course. This was Code.org's recommendation for assigning courses. They have a couple of different options. They start kindergarten at course A. I like to start kindergarten at the Pre-Reader Express because I think that it's beneficial for those students to get that pre-reader course. And then I go with first grade at an A, B, second B, third C. That's just my preference, and that's what's worked well with the students that I've actually used it on. But the key thing to know here is you can only assign one course per section. So you can't go back in and assign another course to a section that you already created. So if a student, I'm going to go back to my sandbox. If one student had completed that Pre-Reader Express and I wanted to assign another one, well, I would have to go back and create a new section for those students that wanted to move on. So you can't have multiple sections, multiple courses within a section. So that's kind of something that is a little bit harder to navigate, but really ultimately most of the students stay at the same pace. So if that happens, you might just create a new section for one student that would be the next course above. And then as others finish, you just add them to this new section. So that's where it kind of gets a little bit tricky. But for the most part, by the time it gets to that, teachers have already figured it out too. So if you have any questions or comments or are looking for more information on how to do things in Code.org, I invite you to please reach out to me. My name again is Sean Abley. There is my email address and my Twitter handle. If you wanted to add me on Twitter, there is a link to my hotspot website, and I'm more than happy to help you with any of these things. Just please feel free to reach out. Sarah Sleesman is the Director of STEM at the Arizona Department of Education, and also a great resource if you had any questions or comments. So I hope that you are as excited as I am about Code.org and that you find that to be a useful tool in your classrooms next year. Thank you so much.